L'homme au chapeau est triste. L'eau coule à travers son toit et se déverse dans son âme. Comment va-t-il surmonter ce sentiment?
Well, welcome to Oregon. We're still hacking away at the barn project on our holiday break, approaching Christmas, and yeah, you can hear the wonderful sound of Oregon. You could have also, before I turned the camera on, heard extreme profanity because the roof that I had newly installed in the spring is leaking like crazy. There were a couple of small leaks that they came out to address, and I don't know if these leaks just got worse by happenstance or if they didn't tweak everything they were supposed to, but it's not great, kids. This is bad timing because on Tuesday, I'm supposed to have an electrical inspection. And I don't really want the inspector to see that some of the boxes they installed on the exterior wall are wet. And I can't do siding until, can't do siding on the outside of the barn until it dries out a little bit. And that might be the middle of next week. Like Christmas Eve, I might be out here, installing hardy board siding. But at some point, this leak stuff has got to go. So hardy board is the brand name for a cement fiber siding. It's a lot more popular than wood siding now because it holds paint longer and doesn't rot because it's not made of wood. The house has actually been resided in hardy plank last year, the slat siding product. I am lazy, or just not as enthused about the plank siding on the barn. It doesn't match the rest of the motif, which is mostly plywood, OSB, and old roofing material. So we're going to use the hardy board on the outside, but again, can't side over the wet because you don't want to trap the moisture in. However, it turns out that we need to side this wall. Where is it? Right behind me. We put up the house wrap and the window on the final wall. The door is... the door is going to be another video. I don't want to do another video. I'd rather have the door now, but the back door is going to be another video. So that wall is partially covered. It is not completely weather protected, as you will see when we start working on it. But we've come up with this scheme that we're going to use for putting up the siding, and we're going to use this wall to try it out and see if we have to make adjustments before doing the outside of the barn. So the thing about any wood sidings, you really don't want it running all the way to the ground, and hardy plank, kind of the same thing. Water will eventually damage it. So at the base, we're going to run a 2x4 as kind of a exaggerated trim board, and then put deck flashing over the top of that, rest the board on it, and then run that all the way up to the ceiling. I might also have to kind of quasi-reinforce the walls as we go along. Hardy plank can be installed over a number of different sidings, including, like we installed it over the old T111 that was on that house. T111 is a structural siding, kind of similar to OSB, but treated as a siding product. You can just put up OSB and then put hardy plank over it. You can put it up over insulated foam board, or what we're going to do is reinforced framing. So we'll go along and stick some extra 2x4 scraps in between the wall we framed out, and also line up any 2x4 scraps in case we didn't quite get the measurements right and things fall to either side of the bits we framed out. And we're definitely going to have to do that around the window. What I didn't do right on this, so I doubled up the framing here. Now, part of the reason you double up framing around a window is to kind of strengthen it, to make sure the window's got a solid place to sit. What I failed to do on this side is properly double up the framing on the window so that there's enough space for the damn trim to go in. Because you need to trim these out before you put up the siding. That is the hardy plank recommended installation process. And if you don't, you can see the shadow here. Where's my finger? So you can see the shadow of my mistake here. So this is, you can feel where the trim ends, and there's nothing behind that. So the trim is tied in to this board, but I didn't leave enough space for the trim and then the siding to go in next to it. So what I'm going to have to do is I've got this notch here. I don't want to butt this together. I don't want the new vertical piece to meet exactly up against this. So I'm going to use this as a spacer to get my 2-inch spacing, because I have a lot of these cut ends lying around, and drop another 2x6 piece cut to fit, so that when we put the siding up, it's got something to bite into just on the other side of the trim. And I'll have to do that as well at the bottom and a little bit on the top, and it shouldn't be that hard to do. And I got a ton of scrap lumber lying around, so no problems there. I just shouldn't run into my new wiring. Inside of the sheltered part of the barn, remember, we don't have an exterior door on this entrance that we use for things like the lawnmower, so water is at the moment blowing in here, and so I've got to treat the wall behind me like it's an exterior wall, because it kind of is. And you can see just from one overnight rain what I'm talking about. All right, here's the other side of that lovely, lovely window we put in yesterday. I have trimmed this out with a 2.5 inch by 3/4 inch vinyl product. There's one of the screw holes where I missed. These are going to get caulked over anyway during painting. I could have used nails on this, but I haven't unpacked the nail gun yet. That's another toy I get to play with. But you can see just from one night's rain, and something that is relatively sheltered, how wet this window got. This is all blowing in. This is a south-facing wall, and there's an entrance at this point. But yeah, you can see exactly what we're dealing with moisture-wise. Now, what I've done at the bottom, as I described earlier, is I've run a 2x4 that is outside of the 2x6 framing piece that we had. And then I've run a trim cap over the top. This is trim that's designed for basically to be used with decking. So if you're going to build a deck and you had an edge of the deck that was coming over 2x4, this brown piece of trim is what you would use. I haven't screwed it too much at the bottom because I don't want to make holes for water to go into if they don't have to be there. But I have screwed into the wall. So the siding is going to rest on top of that and run all the way up to the edge of the rafter. And then we'll put in some kind of trim product around that to seal that edge. We decided to go with a 6-foot width double door here, which will explain why the door is not here, because they're not that common. First of all, you're going to disagree with me. You're like, no, they're double doors all the time. They're double doors on all our houses. They're the double French doors that go back out to the patio. Yeah, I know. I got 2 of those in my house, it turns out. Know what they're filled with in the middle? They're filled with glass. Do I want a giant $600 thing filled with glass as my door on this shop? Probably not. That's big planes of glass that I can't easily repair. Yeah, I know the windows are here, but the tools are going to be on the wall with the door for the most part. And I'm a little worried about putting something like a drill press near a giant French door. Yeah, that piece of bar stock comes flying off, and all of a sudden I'm back at Lowe's for another special order door. I don't want to do that. Also, it's a weird look to have like some fancy glass door in the middle of your barn aisle. I mean, the view I'm going to have through it is of a lawnmower that I'm not using at the moment and a tractor. Not really scenic. So the double steel doors seem like the better way to go. You generally have to special order those because most people buy patio doors. It being COVID times and all, of course the factory's delayed. So the door I should have gotten here on last Thursday is now coming at the beginning of the year. So joy to the world. Right, so here's the story, Morning Glory. It is December 27th, 2020. About to put this year into a dumpster. I might rent one ceremonially at the end of the week, but I won't set fire to it because I respect the property of the local recycling company. Here's a fun tip if you're going to do a project that involves exterior siding. Do it all in the spring, especially live in Oregon, because it rains here in the fall. It's a stereotype, but stereotypes are sometimes based on actual things in the world. So we've been dodging raindrops over the Christmas holiday and did a little bit of work on the siding for the shop. I have a failed electrical inspection. I didn't do it. Contractor did it. I will explain that in a separate video, along with how we're going to correct some perceived safety hazards in the barn with the current electrical setup. But it turns out I can't really do anything with the interior walls until the external bits get done, meaning the siding. Past couple days in between raindrops, I have put in a baseboard at the bottom of the barn wall, and that will allow us to put up Z-flashing, put the siding on top of the Z-flashing, and if you notice, the ladders are no longer holding up the gutter, because I actually got the gutter back up. The siding has to go up underneath the gutter. Now, I could do this in a couple of different ways. I could put up a trim board that runs all the way past the bottom of the gutter and butt the siding up against that. That's what's been done the left half of the side of the barn that we're not currently working on. However, when we had the roof put on, we hadn't pulled off the old siding, and they just ran the gutter on top of that. There's no like baseboard or fascia or anything underneath that. So the other thing is the barn's not square. I don't know if I've mentioned that before, but if I have, it's been about 100 times. I was originally thinking I could get a pressure-treated 2x4 or 2x6 and shove it into the gap behind the gutter. It's not going to work. It varies anywhere between 1.5 inches and 3/4 inches. Now, the siding we're using is hardy board. It's a little bit less than 3/4 inches. So my ingenious plan: tack the gutter up. I'm using a scrap blocks of 3/4 inch pressure treated plywood that I cut out of the leftovers of the floor. And I am basically tacking the gutter up that way. I did check the level on the gutter. There is a downslope to the spout. I remounted the spout so it doesn't spray all over the place. And that actually helps us check the weather sealing on the barn, because the gutter is part of the protection of your exterior against water coming off the roof. Areas that would not normally leak will leak when water just gushes all over them. So after putting up the gutter and fixing some of the sealing in the tape that's covering the house wrap, and setting some trim and caulk around the windows, we're not really getting any water in the barn. The roof repairs are holding, and all the extra water that was seeping up by coming in behind the gutter and coming into those untreated boards, it's drying out. So that's good news. So I'll actually have a potentially dry surface to work with. All the exterior windows have had a vinyl trim applied. I don't want to do this again, if I said that enough. So I'm going to use a vinyl product for the trim, hardy plank for the siding, and pressure treated lumber for the base. So I'm building the base a little bit more like I'd build a deck than I would an actual, house. I need to keep the siding off the ground, and I need to make sure there's something that is water resistant as the base of that. And so a combination of 2x4 number 2 pressure treated lumber plus a Z flashing that's designed for deck edges, meaning it's 1.5 inches wide at the narrowest point and sits right on top of that. Perfect solution. The top is a typical window flashing, about 1.25 inches, so it's going to hang over the trim a little bit, but that'll give some room for the water to flow over the top. So that, with the gutter, with the house wrap, with the siding, we should be good. It's Monday evening, wrapping up on the house siding. I didn't really take a lot of footage on Sunday. Sunday was frustrating. Fun things about this job: one, air nailers, if I haven't mentioned already, take a little bit of skill to work on adjusting the depth of the nail head, and I'm having some either blow through the material, not go all the way in, so I still have to have a hammer around to knock them in. Or my favorite is that they go into the material bounces away from the post because of some flex or nothing's quite square, and then the nail head goes in and the board's not pushed up against the frame of the shop. So in some cases I'm taking some of the blown out nails that end up on the other side of the vapor barrier when I miss the stud, or another ring shank nail, and just hammering it in, and then I'll actually push the surface up against the gap. So I have a couple places in here where there's still extreme gaps that I need to fix. And because I'm missing or blowing through, I'm hitting nail heads other places on the seams, and so I'm gonna have to caulk over a lot of nail heads. Yeah, I want to say that I'm surprised by this, but let's be honest. We all knew this was going to happen. It's supposed to be dry when you caulk, and it's not consistently dry in Oregon in the fall and winter. But anyway, the good news is that the hardy plank is up, and most of the caulking is held, but honestly, it looks like a sad juggalo. I'll let this dry out a little bit and work out some stuff on the inside, because it turns out now that I did pass the electrical inspection. Okay, not me personally, but the wiring in my barn has passed the electrical inspection. And that means that I can start working on the prep for insulating the interior walls. It means I get to fill in some holes with some foam. Ah, great stuff, isn't it? What's the word I'm looking for? Wonderful? Anyway, once I'm done with this little gap-filling exercise, we get to start on the insulation of the workshop in earnest. But that's another video. See you next time on NerdSteading.